أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. For 10 nights, all of you have cried for the men of Hussein. For 10 nights you have cried for the women of Hussein, you've cried for the kids of Hussein, you've cried for the youth of Hussein. And I pray on this Sham-e-Ghariban that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts just one tear of yours. I pray that the mother of Hussein, Fatima Zahra, salamullah alayha, accepts our pursa, accepts our condolences. Shahzadi, your son fought a valiant war today. He fought like no other. In the Maqtal of Abu Mikhnaf, Abdullah ibn Ammar narrates, I saw forces from the left of Hussein attempt to attack Hussein. I saw forces from the right of Hussein attempt to attack Hussein. I saw this one man fight off the forces from the right to the point where they would flee. I saw this one man attack the forces from the left to the point where they would flee. And I had to remind myself, Ibn Ammar says, this was a man who just lost his sons. He just lost his brothers, he just lost his companions, he just lost his family. But he says, by Allah, I've never seen someone fight the way Hussein fought today. One man against 30,000 men, but he dictated the war today, the day of Ashura. When he wanted to stop, it would stop. When he wanted to fight, it would fight. When he returned back to the khayma, this was your son, Shahzadi. And I know all of you are exhausted, all of you are tired. It's just a matter of a few more hours of zahmat, and you will go home with the people that you came with. You will go home with the same people you came with. My sisters will go home with the same hijab and chadar they had on their heads. My sisters will go home with the same hijab and chadars they had on their heads. It's Sham-e-Ghariban now. We ask Zainab. Zainab, when you left Medina, Ali Akbar was there, Abbas was there, Qasim was there, Hussein was there. The shan by which they mounted you on your camel. But this is Sham-e-Ghariban now. The sun has set on the day of Ashura. Zainab, your Hussein is no more. Your own Muhammad are no more. Your Abbas is no more. Your Ali Akbar is gone. Every single time Hussein would bring a shaheed back to the khayma, the first one there to welcome him, to support him, to grieve with him, to give him pursa was Zainab. The first one, Bhaiya, it will be okay, Bhaiya, I'm with you. Bhaiya, don't worry. Bhaiya, remember our purpose. Bhaiya, they are the enemies. Bhaiya, we're on the path. She would cry with the shaheed's family. She would cry with Hussein. But who is it tonight that's going to sit there and be beside Zainab? This is now your Ashura, Zainab. Your journey now has begun. You'll go towards Kufa and Sham, back to Karbala. Even in the pre-Islamic Jahil Arabs era, there were things that they would not do in a war or battle. They would kill, they would shed blood, but they wouldn't disrespect the bodies after the body was gone. I don't know what enmity they had towards Hussein, but from amongst the darkness of the Maidan of Karbala, as you know, from Asri Ashur, it became very dark now in Karbala. Umar ibn Saad is heard by saying, I need 10 volunteers to go and grab their horses, change the hooves on their horses. One by one now, the bodies are taken from the khayma of the shuhada. They're lined up one by one. I always say one statement every single year. The gham and grief And the difficulty that Zainab saw, Hussein Hatta didn't see. The things that Zainab saw, Hussein never saw. Hussein never saw the beheading of heads. Hussein never saw the trampling of bodies. But here they were one by one. Umar ibn Saad would say first, those who were responsible for their respective shaheed, go and take that shaheed and separate the head from the body. Hussein is watching as Ali Akbar's head is removed, Qasim's head is removed, all of Muhammad's heads are removed, put on spears one by one. If that wasn't enough, Umar ibn Saad now has 10 horses now ready, 10 volunteers. On the ground is Hussein's body. Umar ibn Saad lines up the horses, 5 on one side, 5 on the other. On his command now, the 5 from the right go towards the left, the 5 from the left go towards the right. The Khak of Karbala is in the air, the last horseman to trample the body of Hussein. He says, by Allah, when my horse trampled Hussein, I could hear the cracking of his ribs. If that wasn't enough, the enemies now moved towards the Khayma. Every time Hussein would fight, if Shimr would grab 10 of his Kufans and move towards the Khayma, Hussein would stop his battle. He would tell them, look, if you're not men of religion, at least be men of dignity, men of humanity. These are women. These are small children. You have a problem with me? Fight me. Battle with me. What have these women done? These are the women of Rasulullah. Let them go. Let them breathe. But no, Hussein, after you were killed, they entered the Khayma. They began to loot the tents. They began to slap the children. They began to rip the chadars off of the women. Then they began to set the tents on one fire, then a second fire. Hamid ibn Muslim says, I saw small children run from one tent to the other. That tent was put on fire. Then the other, that tent was put on fire. And before you know it, every tent was on fire. Women everywhere. Women, children everywhere. But Hamid says, I saw the daughter of Ali enter a certain tent. It's almost as if she could see there was something very important in that tent. She would go and move back, go and move back. How do I get what's inside that tent out? It's begun to be put on fire. And then he says, I saw with my own eyes the daughter of Ali with immense strength and courage. My salams to the women and mothers of Karbala. She entered this khayma, and there carrying out this man, this bimari Karbala. Zainab now bringing imamat out of the tent, saving that imamat of the future of Islam. Everywhere there's children, everywhere there's women. But remember, Hussein said, Zainab, I have 2 pieces of advice. When you recite Salatul Layl, don't forget me. And the second advice and second khaish I have is I'm leaving you my 4-year-old amanat. Take care of my Sakina. There is no house without that tranquility of Sakina. Zainab now is looking around this chaotic scene. The tents are on fire. The kids are screaming and crying. The men now are looting everything. But she can't find Sakina. She has no idea where Sakina is. Have you seen Sakina? Have you seen Sakina? Have you seen Sakina? Everywhere she would ask, until someone said that Shahzadi, when the tents began to burn, she went running into the Maidan of Karbala, screaming, Baba, Baba, Baba. Zainab now looks towards the Maidan of Karbala. She sees a 4-year-old Sakina. My salams to the fathers out there. All of you have daughters. I have daughters. I remember myself when my daughter couldn't sleep sometimes at night. She'd be restless. She couldn't sleep. We would try everything. But the only moment that she found sukoon was when I would pick up my 4-year-old daughter. I would rest her head on my shoulders. This was the 4-year-old of Hussein. She was scared. She was completely alone, looking out, and all she knew was, I just want my Baba. I just want my Baba. Running out into the Maidan of Karbala. Sitting there in front of the body of Hussein. Zainab says, Sakina, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Pupi Amma, when I saw this fire happening, I went running towards my Baba. But then she would say, Sakina, you recognize a body either by the face of that body or by the clothing of that body. Your Baba's body doesn't have a head. It doesn't have any clothing. She said, I don't know. I went running inside the Maidan of Karbala, screaming, Baba, Baba, Baba. And a voice from this very body says, Ya Bunayya ilayya, ilayya. Come, my Sakina, come. Your Baba's right here. Your Baba's right here. There comes a moment now, Akhri Zahmat, you are exhausted emotionally, I am exhausted emotionally. But today is not a day that we talk about anything worldly. Today is not a day that anything else matters. We just simply talk about the fact that Hussein was killed today. Umar ibn Saad, just to understand the amount of oppression and the level of dhulm, understand the oppression done on Hussein was not about the trampling of the horses, was not about the arrows, wasn't the thirst or the hunger. It was the fact that they didn't recognize who Hussein was. His maqam is somebody doesn't deserve to be denied water. All of you celebrated Ghadir, you saw the adamat by which his father was announced as the Mawla of the Ummah. All of you celebrated Mubahila, you saw by which Sha'an, the Holy Prophet, would bring this Panjatan now towards the Christians. The Hussein of that family didn't deserve what he got in Karbala. They didn't understand who he was. If that wasn't enough, the way that they asked Zainab and Sajjad to go through what they went through was very difficult. One last zahmat, and that zahmat is that on the 11th of Muharram, when this qafla now gets ready to go from Karbala to Kufa, Kufa to Sham, Umar ibn Saad gets the qafla ready. He says, now we must leave. But he instructs his people that we're going to take them through the Maidan of Karbala. Let them travel through the Shohada. Let them see who they're leaving behind, just to place a little bit of salt on their wounds. Now can you imagine now, this qafla is ready. There's women there. There's children there. Bibi Zainab is there. Imam Sajjad is there, right in the front. And now this qafla begins now to enter the Maidan of Karbala. Zainab sees Ali Akbar's body. Zainab sees Abbas's body. Zainab sees Ola Muhammad's body. Zainab sees Qasim's body. But there comes a moment now where she approaches a body that's trampled, that has no clothes, that has no body, that has no head. At that moment now, Zainab looks a little bit confused, the Maqta says, looking at the body, staring at the body, trying to figure out that body. When she starts to realize that this is her, this is his body, she simply asks one question, Anta akhi, is that you, Bhaiya? Is that you lying there on the plains of Karbala? Matam ya Hussein, ya Hussein, ya Hussein, ya Hussein.